I get the privilege to introduce you to our new CEO from SECO Energy. That's not something you get to do every day, so I thank you for this opportunity. Mr. Wynn was hired by the board last year and joined us in December. His energy industry career is rooted here in Florida. From 1981 to 1997, he worked at West Florida Electric Cooperative. His tenure culminated there as Vice President of Member Services, Information Technology, Marketing, and Economic Development. Many hats. Mr. Wynn also served for 24 years as President and CEO of Roanoke Electric Cooperative in North Carolina, and then just recently made the move here to SECO Energy in Florida. Mr. Wynn is married to his wife, Celine, and they have 3 grown children. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration and Management Information Systems from Troy University. Any Troy alum? That's too bad. You could have had a year of free electricity. Just kidding. That was not going to happen. I just tell you up front, that was not going to happen. With a cooperative career that spans over 40 years, Mr. Wynn's resume reflects a long list of awards and accomplishments with creative solutions that are turning the challenges of the energy industry evolution into major opportunities. Service to other organizations is also an integral part of Mr. Wynn's cooperative career history. He serves or has served on a variety of boards, including, listen to this, the immediate past board president for the National Electric Cooperative Association, past president, vice president, and secretary-treasurer of North Carolina Electric Membership Cooperative. He's a board member for the North Carolina's Association of Electric Cooperatives, a board member for the National Rural Utilities Cooperative Finance Corporation, CFC, a board member for Meridian Cooperative, former SEDC, and past nominating committee member for CoBank. Most recently, Mr. Wynn was awarded the Clyde T. Ellis Award from the National Rural Electric Cooperative Association. This prestigious award honors those who have made exemplary contributions that promote the principles and progress of rural electrification and the development and use of natural resources. Mr. Wynn humbly credits his success to his family, his board and former colleagues at Roanoke Electric, fellow NRECA directors and staff, and many friends across the cooperative networks. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Curtis Wynn.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Let me start by thanking you for all of those kind words, Jeff. Ms. Gloria was listening very carefully, and I think you might, she probably appreciates you doing that. Let me first start by asking, how many of you are SECO Energy board members, or excuse me, SECO Energy members, not board members? That's good representation of members. Well, thank you for being members of our cooperative. We're certainly happy to have a chance to share with the overall crowd some of the things that are happening with SECO. It is my pleasure, first of all, to let you know how elated I am to be a part of a chamber. One of the things that didn't show up on the screen was that I have had the opportunity to serve on chamber boards up in North Carolina, but we didn't have these kind of crowds at our chamber. So you all should be, board members, you should be very happy about what you have going here, and it's very good to see so many people participating with the chamber. This is my first chamber meeting, and I'm proud to to announce that recently my wife and I have become official residences of Sumter County as of just a few days ago. So I'm with you. It's also great to have had the opportunity. It's really an honor to have been chosen as the new CEO of SECO Energy, and I just want to let you know that this all started on December 15th, is when my official first day was there. This is being a part of this growing not-for-profit dynamic regional electric cooperative is really a highlight of my long career to end up here. I'm very grateful to our Board of Trustees for giving me this opportunity. And speaking of Board of Trustees, we have two of our officers who've joined us today. I want to recognize Ms. Joyce Anderson, our Secretary Treasurer for SECO, and our Board President, Mr. Jerry Anderson. I appreciate the two of you joining us today, and thank you for all of your leadership and your support. Over the last decade, SECO has really been on a fast growth pace, and we're at the same time doing everything we can to operate this organization as fiscally responsible as we can. Now, this growth is occurring on three different levels: the residential level, the commercial level, as well as the industrial level, in all three of those sectors. And I heard recently that Central Florida, where we are here today, is, if not the fastest growing part of the country, is definitely one of the fastest growing parts of the country. And it's very likely that what we're seeing in terms of growth is not going to slow down anytime in the near future. You'll hear more about that as I go through some of my remarks today. Just over the last year, this district has added 1,443 new electric services right here in Sumter County. And that, for SECO, accounts for about 25% of our overall growth. Now, when you look at all of the traffic and you look at all of the construction that you see happening here around Sumter County, you might think that the villages and the growth around the villages is the highest across our entire service territory. But fortunately and unfortunately, it is not the case. We have Lake and Marion counties who grew, both of those counties grew at 35% and 37% respectively. So we're seeing it here, and we're seeing it all over our service territory, particularly in these three counties. Now, with the significant growth comes a lot of responsibility, and expansion responsibility is one of those, just to meet the new demand that we're seeing. But we have a system in place that's been around for a while, so we have that responsibility to maintain what we already have and to make sure that we preserve the electrical grid reliability that all of our members tend to enjoy, and that we make a priority to make sure that they do enjoy that. So there are some exciting things that are happening. I want to just cite some examples of what that growth actually looks like. And if we'll start out in this area. We have the Dallas substation just to the north of us that is being completely rebuilt. And it will handle, when that substation is completed, it will handle multiple transmission feeds coming into that substation to provide power. And this is for a lot of reasons, but redundancy is one of the main reasons. And coming out of the substation, as we receive that power, we distribute that power using 8 different circuits or lines that we send all across the county. And that's to serve Sumter County members. Now, this design, with the way it's been set up by our magnificent team, will increase service options. It will lower the counts of members on each one of those circuits coming out of the station, so that if something happens to one, it doesn't impact as many people. It'll provide more robust transmission, because quite frankly, when you hear about SECO's outages, when we have them, it's not always SECO's problem. It's the feed that's coming into our substation. So we've looked at that and tried to create as much operational flexibility around that as we could, so that we can have a reliable system for our members. Now, although this substation provides service largely to communities of the Dallas and Summerfield areas, some of these circuits from the substation will provide service to portions of the villages, and it'll be actually a backup facility for our villages substation. This is scheduled for completion around June of this year. So we're really excited about getting that project completed and in operations. There are 15 ongoing projects in different stages of development that I want to just highlight very quickly. The keys of Wildwood, Phase 2, and the villas at Wildwood are both proposed single-family residential subdivisions that are in the planning and zoning stages. In the Belmont Community Development District, a site plan was approved for a commercial development along County Road 466A that includes restaurants, a hotel, and retail space. In Belmont, Phase 3, SECO recently completed electric infrastructure installation for another 57 residential lots. Also in the Belmont area, a self-storage unit is in our engineering design stage for a 100,000 square foot facility. At Trailwinds Village, a nursing center has been approved by the city of Wildwood. We're awaiting those plans. We're in the design phase for a new Culver's restaurant at Sundance Trail North at 466A. Our engineering department has also been working on electric service design on a 7,000 square foot retail building in the Finney Professional Plaza. In the Lumen Park area on 466 in Lady Lake, our engineering group just completed design for an assisted living facility of 160 units. An adhesive plant is in the works on 82nd Avenue west of County Road 127. In that same area, engineering has just completed the electric service design for a 170,000 square foot building. Near the corner of Buena Vista and Parr, a proposed 2,300 square foot facility for a new Sprouts grocery store is in the works. The community called Wildwood Cottages is also in development near County Roads 134 and 426. That design calls for 70 rental units, a clubhouse, pool, dog park, and a community garden. Now, these units will have no age restrictions. Also in Wildwood, there's a senior assisted living facility on County Road 472 in Northeast 52nd and 132 units in the design phase. In the Pebble Springs Retirement Community, east of County Road 466 and north of 62nd Terrace, engineering has completed the design of a community building totaling almost 200,000 square feet. That job has recently been released to construction for electric infrastructure. And lastly, we're making major investments in the Lake Ella substation. And this is the result of unacceptably inconsistent service experienced by those members earlier this year. Again, maintaining the facilities that we already have in place. Now, I know that this list is long, but what it does is it helps me really to emphasize just how busy SECO Energy is, as well as other service providers are busy keeping up with this new growth. Keeping pace with the growth while we continue to maintain our existing infrastructure so that we can better serve members here in Sumter County. And we want you to know that great service is a very high priority for SECO Energy. With all of this growth, with the amount of growth that I've just described, this really spells out the need for us to maintain our high standard of service reliability throughout the entire service territory, not just in the 3 counties where the growth is. And we have things that we've got to do, that we must have to maintain that growth. And I want to cover those. The first is that we must have strong finances and access to stable financing, access to capital. We must have a talented SECO team to handle day-to-day activities, as well as manage our longer-term vision and strategy for the organization. We must have quality and stable contract labor to support us in areas that it is not feasible for us to hire full-time employees to carry out certain operational functions. We have to have the material and equipment supply chain consistency that it needs to run a business. And since we do not generate or transmit our own power, we must have the ability to purchase that power competitively and we have to do it in a way that it's feasible to sell it back to the members we serve. These are 5 things that we must have and that are critical to SECO Energy's success. So let's start with SECO's financial position, which, by the way, is very strong. We're happy to say that. And that on the other side of that is the growth and the major investments that come with the growth during a time when we're experiencing record inflation and rising cost of capital. It becomes a challenge. Our ability to maintain flat rates and preserve reliable service is a challenge, but that's what we're here to do, is face challenges. I mentioned this tremendous growth several times in the region, and so I want to give you some specific numbers around that growth. In 2021, SECO Energy added 5,770 new meters, which brought our total active meter or service count to over 222,000 accounts. Our CFO, who's not here with us today, just informed me that in March, we added 808 new meters, which that number is the highest that we've seen in the last 15 years. So again, the growth is not slowing down. In terms of kilowatt hours, last year, SECO members consumed over 3.68 billion kilowatt hours of electric power. That is an increase of over 40 million in comparison to 2022. Now, to support the growth again and the increasing demand, our investment has topped over $1 billion. So you could say that your local regionally owned electric utility is a $1 billion organization. And if you look at the investments we're making on a month-to-month basis, that equates to over $6 million of investment every month that we do business. Now, as you can see, with all of that investment, access to low-cost capital is vital. We're fortunate to have stable access to capital through the USDA and the other organizations, the other banking industries that are entities that you see on the screen. And that is a must, and we're happy to be able to have that access to capital at low cost or reasonably cost capital to make sure we can keep up with the growth. Now, but you've all probably heard that the Federal Reserve is anticipating several interest hikes this year. Now, this really has our attention when you look at the type of investments I just talked about, but we know that SECO and all of its funders are not exempt from this policy that's going to be implemented by the Reserve. So it's on our radar. SECO Energy, as well as other utilities, continues to deal with the supply chain constraints due to the aftermath of the pandemic and a lot of other reasons. Now, these constraints are caused by periodic shortages of raw materials, labor shortages, shipping delays, and increased demand for utility products that are challenging our ability to procure things like transformers, very essential to run a co-op, PVC pipe, meter boxes, and any other equipment that relies on a microchip, stuff that we've got to have. And I'm not happy to say, but I just want to inform you that what has happened over the last several months has really caused us to shift gears. What it's done is it's caused us to go from very structured inventory planning with something we call just-in-time planning, get it just when you need it, purchase it, bring it online, and not have a big inventory. We're operating today in a get it if you can or get it while you can environment. And the certainty around it is not there. So that has really shifted our whole business model, and it's put us in a place where we find ourselves operating the business around the resources we have available to us. Such constraints do result in increased costs, and they put pressure on our inventory, and the price escalation we're seeing today is well above normal inflation, well above. So earlier on, during the early stages of this dilemma, we were able to absorb these changes, work with them. We were able to avoid immediate rate pressure. But these increases, because they have extended over time and they don't seem to have any end in sight, they're putting a lot of pressure on us from a rate perspective. I wish that the domestic and global events that are causing these trends were seeing some type of end, but we don't see that. So what do we have to do? We've got to prepare to meet our business targets and the member requests from all of these locations, and do it in an environment today that is more challenging today than we've ever seen probably in the history of SECO Energy. So we're anticipating the continuation of gradual increases in costs. We're anticipating continuous supply chain interruptions. But ultimately, these factors, along with the increased cost of providing service, are going to result in all of us, that's all of us, including the members, paying more for their energy needs. And just as we find ourselves paying more, that cost, because we are a not-for-profit utility, has to be passed on to the membership. But notwithstanding all of this, SECO has and will always strive to minimize that impact on our members by keeping our rates as affordable as possible and making sure that our rates remain competitive both locally as well as nationally. So you have our commitment to do that. Another area I want to move to is power supply. And just to note that roughly 70 cents out of every dollar that we spend at SECO is to purchase the power that we turn around and sell to our members. So allow me to shift the conversation to this very important part of our business. Now, without question, SECO Energy has the infrastructure, the distribution system in place, and it's large, it's robust, it's well maintained, it's here to distribute the power, but we have to buy that power and bring it into the system. And that is a big part of our business. In recent years, our wholesale power provider, who we refer to as Seminole Electric Cooperative, located in Tampa, in recent years, Seminole has taken steps to discontinue operating one of its coal units, replacing it with natural gas, a natural gas facility. Now, Seminole continues to operate its 2.2 megawatts of community solar and is planning to add even more of that renewable energy to its portfolio in the future. But with these strategic changes, Seminole's power production shifts dramatically away from what used to be 42% coal production in 2020. That will be reduced down to about 8% by 2024. Its use of natural gas is increasing from what was 28% in 2020 to 73% by 2024. Renewables are planned to double by 2024, but that still only accounts for a small portion, about 8% of its electricity generation. That would be for us, SECO, and the other 8 member systems that they provide power to. Now, with these strategic operational and environmental decisions that were made in 2020, the cost of operating coal-fired units at that time, when this planning was made, was not as cost-effective as using what we're moving towards with natural gas, nor was it as environmentally effective. But today, as we all know, that domestic and global events and the resulting economics have driven the price of oil up. And they have been on the rise since 2021, and you as residents and businesses are paying significantly more at the pump as a result of that. I saw yesterday, I think the gas prices at the pump were about $4 plus per gallon. And I spoke earlier about Seminole's shift to a larger portion of its portfolio generating from natural gas. Now, regrettably, the natural gas market is affected in a similar manner as the oil market. The Energy Information Administration estimates that the wholesale spot price of natural gas in 2022 will reach an 8-year high. And now that market volatility, chamber members, will affect the cost of Seminole's production of power and ultimately will bleed down to SECO Energy and ultimately will reflect on our members' bills. Now, this impact that I'm talking about is already upon us. Members, and then we saw several members in here, this probably looks familiar to you, who receive an electric bill, or if you read the SECO news each month, you've seen a line item referred to as the PCA. That stands for Power Cost Adjustment Factor. And this calculation allows SECO to adjust for the rise or fall of the price of fuel in real time without formally changing the rates that our members pay. Now, this is a common utility practice that happens, and as a not-for-profit utility, it prevents us from either over-collecting or under-collecting money from our consumers. In April, the price of natural gas caused SECO's wholesale power bill from Seminole to increase. Accordingly, as you might expect, this resulted in SECO's cost per 1,000 kilowatt hours to increase from $121 to $128.05. Now, enough for the downers. I warn you out with rates. Now, you probably say, now that's a lot said about rates. So, as we realize at SECO that from a regional economic and business recruitment, retention, and development perspective, which I know as a chamber is very much on your radar, electric rates matter. Am I right? As you recruit businesses, as you retain businesses, as you as members of the chamber, a big portion of your budgets as businesses are on electric utility costs. So there is a silver lining in all of this. You may be wondering, well, what could be the silver lining after 10 minutes of giving us such a downer on electric rates? Now, what could be the silver lining? Well, it's not just us. This challenge that we're talking about here in this region is all over the country. And the good news for SECO Energy as you compare us to others is that our rates are and will remain competitive in comparison to other utilities in the area as well as nationally. Now let's put some things in perspective and look back over the last 30 plus years. SECO's rates have risen just 30% or slightly less than 1% per year on average. According to the Energy Information Administration, the nationwide or the national average increase for electric rates is just over 45%. Now, this is 0.5% per year, which is over what we've seen at SECO Energy. So as you can see, we've already remained competitive with other utilities across the nation. And the chart that you see puts us in the yellow area, and that is sort of in the middle in comparison to others. Now that we've taken this historical look at SECO's rates, let's see how our current rates compare to those in the region. As of April, SECO Energy's residential members pay, as I mentioned earlier, $128.05 per 1,000 kilowatt hours. Now that puts us nearly $1 lower than the average Florida electric cooperative and $2.80 per 1,000 kilowatt hours lower than the average Florida investor-owned utility. So what happens in the future? Where do we go from here? Moving into the future and understanding the supply chain and labor issues I've mentioned, our Board of Trustees has recently approved steps to embrace technology that will reduce our future operating costs and improve reliability over time. We're one of the very few large, fast-growing utilities in the state, or in the nation for that matter, that has not yet deployed what we call advanced metering infrastructure, or AMI, throughout our system. We're wrapping up 2 pilot projects that have tested the viability of deploying AMI on our system. The summation of these pilots is that the technology is solid and that the business case is strong for moving in this direction. We're preparing to decide in just a matter of months on a vendor with whom we will work to deploy this AMI technology that will help us improve our operations in a variety of ways, mainly around cost savings. Currently, SECO pays contractors to read meters on the more than 220,000 homes and businesses across our 7 counties that we serve. Now, because we do not currently have this type of investment in place, this process is manual and it is very expensive, especially as we see the cost of fuel to run those trucks or the cost of labor to do the work soar to record levels. And while our investment in AMI will be significant, we anticipate a very substantial return on that investment. We would do that by eliminating some of those costs that I mentioned, such as dispatching trucks and contracting with employees to read meters every month. Another area that we see cost savings is on the occasion when our members' power does go out, that we can restore that power in a reduced amount of time and with less labor than it takes now to do that, a cost savings. And this new technology will allow us at SECO, believe it or not, there are situations on our system where people would love to have the electricity that they use and not pay for it. Yes, we have folks who steal electricity. Now, with this new technology, we will be able to detect that before it happens so that you, as the rest of the members who are members of SECO, don't have to pay for that. These are just 3 of the many cost savings and other benefits that the AMI system will create. And you can learn more about these benefits if you check out our annual meeting video that has been posted on our website. Also, Facebook and YouTube have that information posted as well. And you can watch for updates in the future as we begin to develop this in the SECO News as well. Now, how many in the room have heard of a term called beneficial electrification? Just by a show of hands. Okay, only a SECO table? Okay. Kind of anticipated that. Well, the reason you haven't heard it's a catchphrase that's catching on, and let me tell you what that catchphrase is. In the energy world, it refers to the growing recognition that using clean electricity to keep your homes and your businesses running is much cheaper, greener, and a smarter way to meet our energy needs. Electric transportation, or electric mobility as we call it, is among the most popular forms of beneficial electrification. And here in the Sunshine State, here in Florida, we are second highest in the number of EVs in the nation, of about 60,000 EVs in place. California, of course, holds first place with over 25,000 of those electric vehicles in place. So SECO's most recent residential demographic survey showed that 4% of our members already own an EV, and another 6% indicated plans to purchase an EV in the next few years. So the concern here is that with more people going to EVs, we hear from our members all the time that they're very concerned about the charging availability for those vehicles, particularly during hurricane evacuations. So SECO and the state must prepare for this potential dilemma, and we are closely monitoring federal funding that recently became available to assist in this. Florida's major highways could see at least 100 new fast chargers thanks to the Department of Energy, and Florida, in that funding, which is about $5 billion, will receive about $29 million of that funding, and that's the 3rd most nationwide. And we want at SECO to be a part of that in terms of expanding the EV charging network. Now, while public charging is essential, and it's really important to getting from point A to point B to make sure these electric vehicles are charged, the transition from internal combustion engines to EVs is overwhelming, and the majority of the charging that is happening is not really at the charging stations. It is happening in the confines and the convenience of our homes. For everyday commuters like you and me, more are switching to electric vehicles, and we see it as a viable and popular action But getting that charging and the available charging network closer to home is a trend that we see happening. We know that there's pain at the pump, there's pain at the repair station to get our vehicles maintained. Especially, it just happens. I've seen too many times when we want to just go and get our oil changed, and we walk out with a bill for $300 or $400 because the technician told you needed 5 other things done to your vehicle. Well, a lot of this goes away with EVs because of the less dependence on a lot of the moving parts that it takes to run the vehicle. So if you take all of that and you look at what needs to happen, where we see it at SECO is there needs to be a better and easier way to make sure that members of SECO Energy have the ability to charge at home. And that has moved us to a new EV charging home program that we're putting together that will hopefully provide that option. And that will benefit our EV owners, SECO Energy's members at large, and our cooperatively owned generation and transmission cooperative, Seminole Electric. So let me just give a shout out right now to a lot of this activity that's happening right now. The staff at SECO Energy is coming up with these ideas to be competitive, to be futuristic, to look at where we're going. But we're very much supported by a board of trustees, 2 of whom I just introduced today, who are helping us by supporting us to make these investments and making sure that we do it in a feasible and economically sound way. And I just want to thank our board of trustees. You see the 9 of them here. Their commitment and concern for the members and the communities we serve are clearly demonstrated by their support. And we're making smart investments, and we're making those to lower operating costs in the future and to keep our rates as competitive and affordable as possible. Now that I've talked about reliability, Jeff, are we good on time or are we running short? So we need to, all right. Let me just share with you really briefly about some of the other things that are happening here. Solar for SECO and its overall service territory, about 3,200 arrays are a part of our service territory. And this number is growing on a daily basis. But we want to make sure we explain that with this phenomenon of more and more solar coming on, at SECO, we can support our members' efforts to move in this direction. We do not discourage it. We just want to make sure that our members, if they decide to do it in a sound and smart way. We have employees who can come out and with whom you can consult to make sure you get the right information before you make that decision. We want to make sure that the buyers beware. You've got brochures on your tables. Pick those up, take a look at them. But what you might be hearing in terms of go solar, disconnect from the utility is not really the case. There are going to be times when there's still a need to work with the cooperative or your other electric utility to make that work. So we just want you to be fully informed before you make investments. So consult with us before you do that. Just to sort of move towards the end here, I want to just share with you that we're here. SECO is fast growing. We're one of the largest co-ops in the country, and it's moving in the right direction. We've got a lot of things happening. Our satisfaction scores that we receive through 2 of our surveys that we go out to our members to seek their input on how we're doing are coming back strong. 2 of those are the ACSI score, American Customer Satisfaction Index, that brings back numbers that say we're ranked very high. We have the J.D. Power Awards, and as you've heard about SECO, we've been past winners of that award as a top utility in terms of member satisfaction. So we're striving to make sure that doesn't change and that we continue to do things that are member focused, that are member driven, and that make sure that our members are satisfied. We also want you to know that as a cooperative, we are different. And in terms of how you compare us to other utilities, we're a not-for-profit cooperative, so capital credits is another major thing that we do that other utilities don't do by giving back, either assigning or paying back the excess dividends, the margins that we make from year to year to make sure it goes back to the members. And that is what we call the cooperative difference. So I'm going to close at this point by thanking the Sumter County Chamber members for this opportunity to update you on what's happening with SECO Energy. Thank you, Mr. Anderson and Mrs. Anderson, in no relationship, by the way, for joining us. I appreciate you, along with the other 7 direct trustees, for your support. Our leadership team is here. I want to recognize the table here to my left. We have several members of our leadership team and members of the staff who are here. I just want to thank you all for being a part of not only what we do here at SECO, but you're in the community, as Jeff has demonstrated today. I don't think we have time for questions, but if in case we do, I'm more than happy to field a few questions as we wrap it up. But again, thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for having us today.